All right, this is Chat UTD, and it seems like it's one step forward, two steps back on the pitch, at least for Manchester United. Off the pitch, I think it's very worrying, which I'm going to come to a bit later. But on the pitch, one step forward, two steps back. In the build-up to the game against Southampton, there was so much focus on, we've got to play well in this game. We've got to back it up. After the Liverpool game, Bruno Fernandes said we've got to play well against Southampton. That's the test. After the Arsenal game, he repeated that. In the build-up to the Southampton game, in the presser with Ruben Amorim, he alluded to the fact, these are the type of games where we've got to go. These are the tests for us. Have we improved? Have we started to turn a corner? Well, we'll know after the game against Southampton. And they completely outplayed us for large periods of the game. This is a Southampton team that is statistically one of the worst the Premier League has ever seen. Has a minus 30 something goal difference, and hadn't scored a corner from a corner before last night. I was looking for ways to defend the team, really, thinking when you're an underdog, like we undoubtedly, whether we like it or not, we were underdogs against Liverpool and Arsenal. When you're an underdog, it is probably easier mentally to go and play well. And I think against Liverpool are going to come out and play against you. They're going to not be too concerned with defending because they think they're going to steamroller us. So it's going to give us pockets of time where we can play. Against Arsenal, it was all about the basics. It was all about, for 60 minutes at least, can we batten down the hatches and defend for our lives? And it was a very clear objective that we had to achieve. And whilst that's not easy, it's easier to be positive about the team, and it's easier to look at that and say that there's a lot of positives we can take from that. And I think probably as a team, it's a very clear thing that, you've got to try and achieve. So in some respects, that's more simple, if you like, than playing at home to Southampton where the expectations are on you. But that doesn't really ring true when you think about the way the game went. Southampton didn't come and park the bus and get 10 men behind the ball and hope for a breakaway. Southampton came and played. Southampton came with confidence. Southampton pretty much, as I say, outplayed us for long periods of the game. So that would have left lots of space for us. But we were ponderous, we were slow. There was no imagination to our play. We weren't even doing the basics particularly well. We missed some big chances, in fairness, as did they. But I'll tell you what I think's happening here. I don't think for a second in the build-up to this game the players thought it's only Southampton, fuck it. I don't think they could think that, because there was so much scrutiny on them going into this game, having done so well against Arsenal and Liverpool. All eyes were on them last night. Like, what are they going to do in this game? Let's have a look at. Everyone was predicting 3-0, 4-0, etc. So I don't think they could go into it thinking, it's all right, it's only Southampton. But what does happen, perhaps against teams like Southampton, that doesn't happen against Arsenal and Liverpool, is we drop off 2 or 3%, just naturally. You play for a big club like United, that can happen. We're not a good team anymore, but we still represent a big club. So when you play in Southampton at home, Bournemouth at home, Palace at home, Fulham at home, those games don't float your boat as much. So you drop off 2 or 3%. The problem for this team is when they drop off 2 or 3%, they're not good enough to do that. And they get shown up. If Liverpool drop off 2 or 3% against Southampton at home, they'll still batter Southampton. If Arsenal drop off 2 or 3% against Southampton at home, they'll probably still win. If City did, they'd probably still win. We're not good enough to do that. I feel like this with United sometimes. We've got all the trappings of a big club, but we haven't got the quality to go with it. And I think that's what's happening. I think we drop off by 2 or 3% and we're just not good enough to do that. And last night we were saved by Ahmad, who actually didn't have a particularly good game, but is the match winner because he perseveres, because he's relentless. His persistence in the build-up to the first goal, it's not pretty. He's whacked it, it's hit the lad that's against him, and he's got a second bite of the cherry. The second goal, brilliant, fantastic finish, shows his class. The third goal, just like the goal against Tottenham in the League Cup, is about him chasing down when no one else would do that. It's a mistake, but it's a mistake forced by persistence. There's no other player that's doing that. And there's no other player that's dragging us out of the mire like he did last night. I'd love to say we've got to build a team around Ahmad, but bringing it to the more holistic look at what's going on at the club off the pitch, United aren't building anything because they're entertaining the idea of selling the likes of Garnacho and Mainu. Not because, I don't think anyway, not that because they've got a poor attitude or because they don't fit the system or because of certainly not because of their age, but because we haven't got any money. We're absolutely skint, and they know these players will fetch a decent amount of money, and they'll be an attractive proposition for prospective buyers. No club can build from that. You don't build a team doing that. What we need to do, in my opinion, is look to get rid of as many of the following players as possible: Rashford, Casemiro, Eriksen, Lindelof, Shaw, Mount, Anthony, probably Malacia. I'd go Xerxes. I know he played well last night, but I don't rate him. But that's more of an opinion one. I think the others, I think we could all agree that their time's done at United. So of those others is 8. So there's 8 players there. Not going to get rid of 8 players anytime soon. But get rid of as many of them as possible this month, if at all possible. Now, it's not easy to get rid of those players, but maybe do a deal on the wages, maybe do a deal on the fee, just so that you can get them off the books, because that's going to clear a lot of money in terms of wages. But then that might free up some finances for us to bring in some players. If not now, then maybe we wait until the summer and deal with the bare bones of what we've got now and move that on. That's what we move forward with until the summer. But then maybe you can build a team around the likes of Ahmad. You can't build a team around Ahmad when you're getting rid of some of your best young players, which in my mind, Garnacho and Mainu are. I did a video last Friday on Garnacho and Mainu. It's not got a lot of views. I did it on Friday evening, and there's a bit of a peculiarity with the timings and the, well, I don't know if it's a peculiarity, there's a link between the timing of my videos and the amount of views it gets. So last Friday night, I uploaded a video about Garnacho and Mainu and it being a fire sale at United, and it got, I don't know, 2 or 3 views. And then on Monday, I did a video in the day looking back at the Arsenal game, and it's got 40-something views, which is up there with the most amount of views that I've had. So it's people's prerogative to watch videos or not watch videos. It just seems strange that there's such a disparity between the amount of views from one to another. So I don't know if timing's important on that. But if you haven't watched that video from last Friday, you know, go and check it out, because I cover the fire sale stuff in there as well. But United will always have a limit and a ceiling as to what we can achieve working under these restrictions, as we are, which they are. We are working under restrictions with the current ownership model. Even if we went down the route that I just suggested, getting rid of as many of those 8 that I just said as possible, and then bringing a few in and perhaps supplementing the rest with youth and building around the likes of Ahmad. Even if we did that, with the finances we've got, the ceiling is probably about 5th or 6th. Unless Amorim is an absolute bona fide genius, which we don't know if he is yet. If you go down the route of selling your best young players and keeping the likes of Ahmad will just stand out like a sore thumb because he's good. But as a team, we're going nowhere. What's going to happen is we're just going to be consistently mid-table, with maybe the odd cup run here or there. Which is concerning. Just on Ahmad again, just to sort of finish the point. I'm not going to make predictions as to like whether he's going to be a world superstar or anything like that, because we don't know. But what I would say about him is he is in the midst of having a sensational season. He's the shining light of this team, and look at him and his performance and his perseverance last night, more than his performance, and his ability to dig us out of the mire like he did. Look at that a week after he got a new contract versus some of the other more high profile players who've got new contracts and not tried a leg for 6 months afterwards. He's humble, he's grounded, and I think the danger with Ahmad, if we don't actually organically build a team around him, or certainly have building blocks next to him, is that he's so good. If he continues to be this good, he'll want to go somewhere else because he won't want to be playing in a mid-table team or a team that's finishing 5th, 6th every season. You look at Ahmad now and you see how well he's playing. You imagine him with a world-class centre-forward next to him, or a world-class player who's playing in the other position just behind a potentially world-class forward. If we bought 2 players like that, we haven't got the money to do it. That's what building a team around Ahmad looks like. We can't do that. At the weekend we've got Brighton, and funnily enough, last year when Ineos came in, I said a lot of things, and I've repeated a lot of those things recently. One thing I haven't repeated recently, as I said, with the appointments that Ineos were making and with the way that they seemed to be talking about what they were going to do, it looks like the model we're looking for is something similar to Brighton, in that they wanted that whole game, is it called the game model, where everyone at the club knows exactly how every team is supposed to play from the academy all the way through to the first team. They have an ethos, a culture, an identity of what they are looking for, a DNA, and therefore they have a very clear profile of players. They have brilliant scouts and recruitment, so that they've got their fingers in pies in Northern Europe and in Asia and in South America and North America, and maybe obscure places where they're picking up gems that other people aren't picking up. They're buying cheap and selling high. And when the manager is under pressure or is looking like he's going to lose his job, they've got 2 or 3 people lined up already because they know exactly the profile of manager they need, and the game style isn't going to change. And they've built that up over a period, Brighton, and for a small club, they're doing very, very well. Problem for United is that with the finances involved in breaking into the conversation for top 3 or 4 from where we are now, we need far more than that. That Brighton model is only going to get you, as I mentioned before, 5th, 6th. And that's if you're getting it right. We're yet to see if United have the expert recruiters like Brighton do. And if we do have fingers in pies in North America and Northern Europe and maybe more obscure places, I don't know whether we have or we haven't. Let's hope we do. But if we still are a club that is going to buy cheap, sell high, and look to run it that way, there's a limit. There's always going to be a limit to what you can do. I admire Brighton for what they've done, but they're Brighton. With no disrespect, they're Brighton. We're Man United. There's a big difference. There should be a big difference. Over the Christmas period, I did a video where I spoke about relegation because it was being spoken about quite a bit, and I said, I don't think we are going to get relegated, and I profiled the next 8 games. At that point, that was inclusive of Liverpool and Southampton, and I predicted that we'd get beat by Liverpool and we'd beat Southampton. And I predicted that Brighton would be favourites and that Brighton would win at Old Trafford. You'd hope after the Arsenal and Liverpool game that we'd have seen a performance last night that might change that opinion, that might make me think that something has changed, something shifted. But looking at the way we played, I'm afraid I'm not going to say that. I stick to my original prediction. I think Brighton go into this game on Sunday as favourites. Because this is another type of game where maybe United might be 1 or 2% off it. And we've played on Thursday, and the players I just don't think they're fit enough. I think if we played once a week for the rest of this season, you see a massive difference, but that's not the reality of it. We're not going to be playing once a week. They don't have the capacity to maintain those levels every few days. So I think Brighton are probably favourites. We're 12th. 12th in the Premier League. We moved up 3 places to move up to 12th. And the atmosphere around the club is a strange one because we you don't want to be booting off because we've got a new manager, and I really I'm quite optimistic that in the right environment, Amrim could be quite special. But there's that key word, environment. I'm not sure he's got the right environment around him. I'm not sure he's got the people to supplement him in the way he needs. So I don't want the fans to be booing and kicking off or whatever. But the reality of it is, off the pitch, is that we're in a dreadful position in the Premier League. And there's an air of acceptance about it. And the more stuff that comes out about Ineos, the more you can see what I said a year ago. They haven't got the finances to do what's needed to be done. So it's a it's a strange situation. As I said, on the pitch, I think you see that we're making some forward steps sometimes, and then we'll make a couple of steps back. I think that's the way it is. I maintain what I said on Monday. What we need to see is Amorim and his team give us something that we can identify with. And it might not be perfect and it might not be brilliant, but just something we can identify with week after week after week, doing the fundamentals week after week after week. And last night, unfortunately, is an indicator that maybe they're not going to be able to do that. And we can't just buy players because we haven't got any money. And we can't just sell players because they're all on watertight contracts. So what do we do? Glazers out.